Let's talk about the paper component, since it is quite common in many component libraries, and that's because it is one of the guidelines in material design which Material UI follows. It is meant to replicate how the light casts shadows in the real world with its elevation, but in reality, it is just a div with the class MoePaper root, mainly containing box shadows, which can be changed through the theme in the shadows property. To select any of those shadows, the paper have an elevation prop that accepts a number in the array. You also have a variant of outline, which transforms it into a div with borders and no shadows, ignoring the elevation prop. By default, it has rounded corners, but you can change it to a square by providing the property. You'll normally not use this component on its own, since most of the components that normally will need them includes this component already. Besides that, you can access the shadows values through the SX prop as well. The car component is one of the components that have the paper props as well, so you can use it like so. It also contains a property called raise, which will emphasize the car with a stronger box shadow. It is also composed by many other components which are essentially contained inside the card. The card header, well, goes in the header of the card. It does not accept a children, so you use the title and subtitle prop to customize your title and the subtitle respectively. You can also add an avatar and action prop if you wish to do so. It kinda looks good already. Next, we have the card content. It does not have any special characteristics like the card header. It is simply just a div wrapper for your content. However, it is used to structure the elements of your card. As you can see, it also gives a padding for you for each section. This is true as well for the card actions component to wrap your buttons. This component by default gives a margin left to its items. You can disable this behavior using the disable spacing prop. The card media is like your image component, and for some reason it is not by default, so you have to set it up yourself for it to work. Ta-da! It's a panda. And lastly, we have the car action area component, which is a button wrapper for any actionable area, so it accepts all button prop. That is how you create a button card basically. Keep in mind that there is no specific order on how you can structure your card. Now, let's talk about something that almost every website has, an app bar, which also uses the paper component. It is a wrapper for all the content inside the app bar, and you can change its color with the theme's values. By default, it has a position of fixed, but it takes all CSS position properties values. This app bar seems like it needs a padding, and for that, you can also wrap your content with the toolbar component. I have no idea why they didn't fuse them together though. Now, if you put content below the app bar, you can see it gets cut off since it has a position of fixed. To solve this issue, you just have to create a div with the toolbar's height, which is located in the theme, and it's done. You know those websites that have this cool app bar animation on scrolling down and up? Well, you can achieve this as well, since Material UI 5 exposes a hook called useScrollTrigger that when scrolling down, it will return true and false if you scroll up. With that in mind, you can wrap it in a slide animation component and use that trigger to control the animation, and as you can see, you achieve that nifty effect. Now, there are some configurations of the use scroll trigger you may want to know. The option disable hysteresis, it just means that instead of triggering on every scrolling action, it will just trigger if the app bar is visible or not. It is cool if you would like that opacity effect instead of hiding it completely. The target property is used to determine what element should it be watching. By default is window, and I really wouldn't modify it. And lastly, the threshold property, in which I only find it useful when you disable hysteresis, is the percentage of the app bar to exclude before triggering. So the lower the threshold, the more scrolling it needs. And lastly, the accordion, which again uses the paper component internally as well. It is composed of many components, similarly to the details and summary HTML tags, and basically works the same way as well. The accordion summary component shows the summary of the contents inside it. It does not come with an icon by default, so you will need to provide it with expanded icon prop. The accordion details renders the content inside the summary as you expand it, and the accordion actions is just a wrapper for any actionable element in your accordion. If you put accordions next to each other, they will naturally group. You can provide the default expanded and disabled properties to initially be expanded and disabled respectively. You can also change it to a control component using the expanded and unchanged properties. That's it for me. If you enjoy this content, please make sure to like, comment and subscribe. See you on the next video.